Hello, my name is Rabbi Abram Goodstein, a rabbi at Congregation Beth Shalom out of Anchorage, Alaska, and this is the sermon that I gave on May 22nd. Here we go. All right, so I'd like to share with you a personal story. When the previous recession hit this country back in 2008, I had just graduated from college and was actually just married, and was stocking boxes in a warehouse for Columbia Sportswear. It was a difficult job for me. I was a poor fit for this kind of work, and at the time, but thanks to the Great Recession, it was the only work I could find. At the time, I felt lucky to have it. I remember one day they were handing out these informational booklets with all the benefit packages for full-time employees. And even though I was technically working on a part-time basis, I received such a booklet. When I asked my boss what benefits a part-time worker like myself could receive, she grabbed the booklet to show me, and she thumbed through it for 5 minutes because she couldn't find what the benefits were for part-time employees. And finally, she found some small discount deep in that book that we received from the company. And in that moment, I had never felt so small and insignificant. For the 2 years that my wife and I lived in Portland, Oregon, we wrestled with poverty thanks to that recession. I never felt so disenfranchised, and I certainly did not feel counted. And that's what this week's Torah portion is about. It's the first few chapters in the book of Numbers, and it's about being counted. In this portion, God demands a census, and Moses makes a count. And that number is 603,550. Now, this number is an interesting one because modern and ancient scholars are quick to point out what this number does not represent. It does not represent women, children, the elderly, or the infirm. This census is unfortunately only counting men of military age and capability, a system based on power differentials, as one scholar put it. So if we think of the census as something that aligns with our values, then it becomes a rather difficult biblical conundrum because the number 603,550 is a military number, showing us that at that time, the Israelites were valuing the security over everything else. Not all of us like this. I don't want to look at the Torah as a narrative about a bellicose people who only care about invading other tribes and not getting invaded themselves. Fortunately, since we are a people who love to argue, there is tons of commentary out there that argue that what's happening here is more than just measuring military might. For example, the great Rashi interprets the census as an allegory for God counting upon every Jew to be God's partner in Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Beautiful. Ramban, N at the end, is a 12th century Spanish commentator, and he explains that the census is designed by God to help the Israelites to stop relying on miracles. This military census is a means of organizing society to protect itself rather than have God protect it. And then one of my favorite interpretations concerning the census is written by Rabbi Samson Hirsch, a 19th century German commentator. And he reminds us that this is not the first census in the Torah. And in previous censuses, it's a strange word to say, the Israelites had to contribute half a shekel to the sanctuary in order to be counted. From this, Rabbi Hirsch extrapolates that a member of the Jewish community is counted by what they offer to the community. Thus, Jews are counted by what they when they do something to benefit Judaism. As a rabbi, you can imagine why I like this interpretation so much. However, not too many of our ancient and early modern commentators are worried about how gendered the census is for the Israelites. And that no matter how we interpret this moment in Israelite history, there are still most likely more Israelites not being counted than being counted. And so I want to quote Cantor Rachel Spilker, as she puts it: a number can measure whether an army has enough people, but it can never measure the worth of the individual of the people in the army. As Jews, we've spent over a millennium commenting on why and what is counted for the Israelites. I believe now it's time to start thinking about what it means to be counted. And since my experience in Portland, Oregon, I know how it feels not to be counted. Furthermore, I only know what it feels like not to be counted in my sort of own narrow way. There are lots of ways for others to not be counted, whether it's not feeling included, not being able to participate, and or not being able to understand. There are so many ways to be excluded. So to expand on Hirsch, maybe members of a community are not just counted by doing something to benefit it. Perhaps a community benefits by making sure all of its members are counted. Ironically, this is only possible if we all contribute to making our community inclusive and to be thoughtful about how we interact with each other. So let's all be counted. We learn as much from our mistakes as we do from our successes, perhaps even more so. And so we made a mistake. We were wrong in the Torah to just count the military age of the Israelites, but not measuring the worth of the individuals. We now know we all have value. We all have worth. And by being counted, we are celebrating those things. And as Ramban put it, we shouldn't rely on God, but on each other to make sure we are an inclusive community. So, if there are ways that you think we can be more inclusive, then please tell us. And better yet, be counted yourself by contributing your own energy to our inclusiveness. Thank you.